Hello and thank you for watching today's unboxing and assembly video. In today's video, we are going to install and assemble the TriLift, which is a mobility scooter lift application that will allow you to transport your mobility scooter using a hitch-mounted forklift-style automatic lifting mechanism. It's very, very unique. There's really nothing else like it on the market. There are two versions. You have the classic and the HD version, which can hold up to 450 pounds. The classic holds up to 300 pounds. Right now, we're unpackaging two brackets and the lift itself. We're going to use one big bracket to carry a huge 300-pound mobility scooter known as the Afikim S4. And with the smaller bracket, we're going to use it to lift up a GoGo LX four-wheel by Pride Mobility. So starting from the left, we have the actual lift itself, which is proprietary. It has a hook that locks into a docking device, which is the bracket that you install on your scooter. It does have a motor head that goes on top of that lift right there that we're looking at. And we'll show you how it works, but essentially there's another part that plugs right into your hitch, which we're focusing in on now. It does have a spring which allows you to tilt the lift back in case you need to open up the tailgate of your truck or the cargo lid for your SUV or van. This is the bracket that we're focusing in on. It does come with some hardware, and the hardware is specific to the mobility scooter that you have, as well as the bracket itself. So make sure that you order the right bracket and the right hardware when you're speaking with your mobility product expert. We also have a manual crank, we have a wiring kit, and the power head with a wireless remote control that is used to control the lift itself. So we're going to go ahead and get started now with the installation process. You are going to need some tools, including a socket wrench set, and we'll put the size of each socket on the screen as we go along, starting with the 5/16 inch socket. You're going to need that to get started with the installation. There is a main securement pin and clip that you're going to use to secure the main part of the TriLift, which is going to be the 90-degree elbow that the actual TriLift attaches to. So again, you will need that securement pin. Make sure you line it up with the right hole, and you will need a Class 2 or Class 3 hitch already installed in your vehicle for this to work. You'll also want to make sure you check with your mobility product expert to make sure that the mobility scooter is going to be compatible with this application. Now, one thing that you're going to want to make sure that you do when installing the TriLift into your hitch, there's a block with threading and a spring. You want to make sure that when you put the securement bolt through, that it goes through the block that has the threading, and it comes out the other side where the spring is. So if you look inside of that channel right now, you could see the block on the left side and the spring on the right side. And that's the way you need to install this bolt when installing the TriLift. Otherwise, you might notice that your TriLift is a little shaky and loose. So we have the 5/16. Go ahead and install the hitch pin and drill it in to tighten it up. And there is no bolt on the other side. You just have the securement clip, which does require some hand strength to go ahead and put that on. The next thing we're going to do is remove the two bolts located at the bottom of the lift itself towards the back side. Those two sets of nuts and bolts with the washers are going to go back through the same holes when you install that part to the main 90-degree elbow that we installed first. Keep in mind that one of the bolts will be countersunk, and you'll want to pay close attention and make sure that that countersunk bolt is used in the top hole. The bottom hole that we're showing you now is going to be just for the main nut and bolt, the standard nut and bolt. The top hole, which you're seeing now without a bolt going through it, is going to have the one that's countersunk. So pay close attention here. We're showing you that it does go in a little bit more. It's not something with a flat head and a washer. The other side does have the standard washer and the nut. We just put them in finger tight for now to hold it in, and now we're going back with our 3/4 socket to tighten everything up. You will need either a pair of channel grips on the other side. One of them is going to be 5/16, and one of them is going to be 3/4. So just make sure you find the right sockets for the right nuts and bolts, and go ahead and tighten those two nuts and bolts up. The countersunk bolt will require a Allen key. So make sure you have your Allen key set handy and tighten up that top bolt with the Allen key. Now we're going to put in the safety securement pin, which has a button on the handle. You'll want to push that in so the little securement ball basically, allows you to push that through, and that's going to hold it in place and prevent it from tilting. The tilting feature is really neat. We'll show you how that works in just a moment, but for now we're going to install the power head. It's really important that you know how the power head works. There's a little gear in there, and it's similar to a motor on a boat motor. Essentially, you need to make sure that that little pin is lined up with the grooves on the part it's going to rest on, which we're showing you now. So if you don't see that it's lined up, use the provided crank tool to turn the receiving end of the power head so that it lines up with the male part that has that bar that rests in between that notch there. And the way to tell that it's all the way in is you're going to notice that there's a gap if it's not set in all the way, as you can see there. When there is no gap, that means it's sunk in all the way and it's on perfectly. So as you can see now, when you look through that hole, there's no gap. So it's all the way in and it's good to go. Once you have it all the way in, grab the Allen key that's attached to the manual crank tool. You're going to use that Allen key to tighten 3 set screws around the power head to keep the power head in place, nice and secure. So make sure that you tighten them pretty well, but don't over tighten it. You shouldn't really over tighten anything to the point where it might crack something. So we went ahead and tightened all 3 of those set screws, and now we're going to go ahead and get the power cable and remove the zip tie that was used to hold it together. Now you can go ahead and zip tie the cable to the actual tri-lift arm itself. You can do it in many different ways. Just make sure it's out of the way. And most importantly, go ahead and remove that securement pin that we were showing you earlier to tilt the unit back. That's going to allow you to gauge how much slack you're going to need in the bottom, because if you have that wire too tight, you might not have enough slack to actually tilt it back. So be careful with that and leave enough slack to tilt it back when you need to so that you can open the tailgate of your truck or the hatch for your SUV in the cargo space. So we went ahead and zip tied it up. We just went ahead and winged it. There's no specific way to zip tie this cable. Once you have it zip tied up nice and neat, go ahead and just plug the trailer connector, the 9-pin trailer connector, into your provided 9-pin trailer connector receiver. You may need to refer to your vehicle's user manual to see if the fuse for your 9-pin trailer receiver allows up to 40 amps, which is what you need. So as long as you have 40 amps, you should be good. If not, you may need to change out your fuse or contact a local vehicle technician, electrician to help you out. Now, the wired version without using the hitch pin is pretty easy. You just need to have a positive and a negative going straight to your battery, which we've set up here temporarily to show you that you can use it that way as well. Once you have power, you'll notice that there is a light switch that you can use to turn on and an up and down switch. It's a toggle switch that allows you to lower the lift. Now, as the lift lowers, that red piece that kind of looks like a triangle is going to lower all the way to the ground. Now, the other part of this application that is required is the bracket that attaches to the mobility scooter. We're going to show you that next. That bracket fits right on top of this red triangle piece, and it allows the scooter to get hooked on by that red triangle. And it's essentially like a forklift system, except that the fork is actually attached to the bottom side of the scooter right to the frame. So the forks are attached to the frame with a triangle-like hook that attaches to this red triangle. And that's what allows this lift system to pick the scooter up. And we're showing you that now first on a GoGo LX that we've already pre-installed the bracket on, which you can watch in a separate video. Just follow the links in the description below. But as you can see, all you have to do is ride the scooter right up to the red triangle and line up the bracket that's on the left side of the mobility scooter towards the base, which you'll have pre-installed by one of our mobility product experts. And once you have it lined up, you just need to lift the actual tri-lift using the toggle switch, and it's going to hook onto that bracket with the red triangle piece towards the bottom. And as you can see, it lifts the scooter up very efficiently. Once it reaches a certain point, it will tilt the scooter forward so that it's not tilted down, as you can see. And once it gets to the highest point, it locks that triangle bracket into place with a securement hatch. that essentially keeps it there very secure and safely. So now we're just showing you from a different angle what it looks like. It is really impressive to see that this scooter can get lifted without a platform lift that is so big and bulky and that essentially weighs a lot more. That's one of the benefits of this system, is that the lift system itself weighs much less. Therefore, you can sometimes get away with carrying certain scooters that you otherwise wouldn't with a much heavier lift application based on the weight capacity and tongue weight capacity of your vehicle. With this setup, you can actually carry one of the heaviest mobility scooters on the market, known as the Afikim S4, which we're going to demonstrate for you. You can also install a drop adapter, which will allow you to lower the lift application. And this is going to be required in certain cases to open the tailgate of your truck, including in this case. So we're going to show you how to install the drop adapter so that you can open the tailgate of your truck and not have that lift system in the way at all. So we're lowering the mobility scooter down just to show you how that works. Essentially, it just goes down and then levels out once it gets to a certain point. And when you are ready to ride away, you may need to go back and forth once or twice just to get away from that bracket. But it's very easy to use, and you don't need to worry about taking the scooter apart. You don't need to worry about carrying the scooter. It's all very, very convenient. One thing to mention with travel mobility scooters like this one, once you have the bracket installed, you cannot disassemble the scooter. But you really don't need to now that you have this tri-lift. So now we're moving on to the Afikim S4. As you can see, this mobility scooter is huge. Again, this tri-lift has a 450-pound weight capacity, so picking this gigantic scooter up is actually not going to be a problem. As you can see, we're raising the lift now using the wireless remote control, and it's just going to hook on just like the other scooter. That red triangle is slipping right into that bracket, and it does need to kind of just adjust itself sometimes if you don't get the scooter perfectly in line with the red triangle, but that's okay. This is all very, very durable, hard steel material, so nothing's going to break if it needs to wiggle itself into place as it's raising up. As you can see, it's all the way up now. And as you can see, this mobility scooter, again, is ginormous, but the tri-lift can handle it without breaking a sweat. Now we want to show you how you can still open your tailgate on your truck if you have a truck with a tailgate. You may think that the tri-lift is in the way, and it very well might be when you first install it. However, there is a solution. There's a nut and a long bolt that has 4 different holes that you can move that nut and bolt to in order to get more tilt out of your tri-lift. So if you find that the tailgate's not opening all the way, release the bolt that we're removing here and move it to the location towards the rear, the furthest one, to get the most tilt. Now that might not still be enough, and if it's not, you want to contact your product expert about getting a drop lift adapter, and that should give you plenty of space to open up your tailgate all the way. Again, it does depend on every vehicle type, so contact your product expert to be sure before purchasing a tri-lift. In addition to the tri-lift itself, we unpackaged a hand cart that's actually made specifically for the tri-lift, and it's very helpful if you ever need to remove the tri-lift. All you need to do is lower the tri-lift into the bracket that's meant for the red triangle, and then just apply leverage to wheel it out. Now, there's also a hook on the tri-lift itself that's used to hook that red piece in when it's raised all the way up. That same hook, when lowered, is used for the hand cart to keep it from falling over and tilting over. So as you can see, we just lowered it, hooked it onto that clip on the rail of the hand cart, and it's freestanding on its own. Now, to install the drop lift adapter, which is what we're going to do now, you do need to remove a component from the base of the tri-rail, which we're showing you here. It's the main steel block that has the spring attached to it. You're going to need to remove the main bolt that's holding it towards the base that you're seeing here on the screen. You'll need to release that nut and then take this nut and bolt and the washers completely out. Now, once you get that bolt out, there is another bolt that you're going to need to remove. It's on the bottom side of the tri-lift, and it holds the spring in place. You'll need a 7/16 inch socket. you'll remove that nut, and there is a hook with threading at the end that holds it in place. You'll want to go ahead and remove that completely, and the spring will become loose. And this is where you're going to be able to pull the actual block out. Again, you will need to pull out the securement pin, and that block's going to come straight out. Now we're applying some WD-40 because it's really difficult to remove this piece. But if you apply some WD-40, wiggle it around, get a flathead screwdriver, apply some leverage, you really can't break this part. It'll come out. And make sure that the threaded cylinder inside of that hole towards the very end stays in there, because that's going to be used for the bolts to go through. And we're going to go ahead and apply the drop adapter with that same threaded cylinder. We applied some WD-40 so that we can slide it in there. It will take a little bit of force. We're going to fast forward a little bit here. And you may need to use a flathead screwdriver to kind of open up the two pieces that it's sliding in between to allow some decompression and allow it to slide in better. Once you have that one hole lined up for the quick release pin, go ahead and put that in first so that it can hold the drop adapter in place while you line up the other hole and get it ready for the nut and bolt. So as you can see, that securement pin's holding it in nice. And once you have that bolt ready to go through, you can kind of just swivel it up and down and allow you to get that bolt in very easily. Go ahead and apply the washer, the lock nut, and then the actual nut itself, and retighten so that you can begin to install the tri-lift with the drop adapter. The drop adapter, again, is going to be necessary if you need to open up the tailgate of your truck, and without it, it might be a little bit too high and get in the way of your tailgate. Now you will need to reinstall that hook with the threaded end through the spring to keep the spring in place. There's two holes on that drop adapter for that hook. Make sure you get that hook in nice and low and just tighten up that nut at the bottom. If you don't have a deep socket, you may need to work with something manual like a pair of pliers. Now we're going to reinstall the tri-lift. We are unhooking the tri-lift from the hand cart first, which requires it to be raised a little bit. And then you go ahead and lower the tri-lift to line it up and get it perfectly in line with the hitch. You may need to lower it so that the angle is right, and then you should be able to just roll it right in using that hand cart. It's really convenient, and if you plan on moving your tri-lift from one vehicle to another or taking it off and putting it back on regularly, we do recommend purchasing the hand cart. It's very, very helpful. As you can see now, the drop adapter is installed. We're just reinstalling that securement pin and clip, and just taking a look visually, you can kind of see how that drop adapter provides a nice solid 4-inch drop there and allows you to basically tilt the tri-lift back. Once you have it tilted back all the way, as you can imagine, the tailgate can just open up now and the tri-lift's completely out of the way, which is great if you need to load and unload things from your tailgate and you really just don't want to remove the tri-lift itself. All in all, we highly recommend the Tri-Lift Classic or the Tri-Lift HD. As you can see, it's very practical, very, very solid, very durable. We highly recommend it. It's offered for sale tax-free. Shipping is free at mobilitydirect.com. Be sure to check out the links below to see the installation videos for the brackets themselves that fix onto the scooters. And make sure you like this video, ask any questions in the comment section below, and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you liked this video and you want to get notified when new ones come out just like it. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.